What's up, everybody? We've got Bright Lights. The official announcement for the next set of Flesh and Blood just dropped a couple days ago, and it is all about mechs, all about mechanologists. It is taking place in Metrics, and I could not be more excited. I've spent the last few days going over this entire announcement with things that you may have missed at first glance, and some of my own thoughts on what we're getting. So, there's a lot of ground to cover, so let's just jump right in. It is set to be a mechanology only set. This is confirmed to contain 3 new heroes in both their regular and young versions. It's a set for limited play, and it is going to be what is used in the limited portion for the World Championship in November.
All I can say, it's going to be a big city with bright lights, but it will be Europe. It will be the big city, and we'll have bright lights.
It is going to be a very important set, both for the limited aspect of those tournaments as well as how it's going to impact constructed play, specifically for CC. So some technical details. It's a set with 251 cards, 1 Fabled. This is almost assuredly Mechanologist Fabled. We can't even begin to speculate on its function, but my guess is it's going to be either some sort of legendary item or maybe like a blue pitch resource gem card in the same spirit as Grandeur of Valahai that maybe like adds a Steam counter. That would be nice. So that's just a wild guess out there. Now, 7 legendaries. This is the most number of legendaries we've had in a draftable set. It's so far unclear if the cards printed in the expansion slot, which we'll cover in a little bit, are part of this, but it seems likely, as this would bring everything in line with previous sets. But again, we're going to be breaking down numbers for this in a little bit. And we've also have 1 confirmed reprint for this expansion slot in Fyendal Spring Tunic, which, if you don't have one, I'm sure you're breathing a sigh of relief because the prices on that are nuts. 46 Majestics. This is considerably higher, as we'll see, by comparison to other draftable sets. 56 rares, 129 commons. That's run-of-the-mill 12 tokens. Again, this is not particularly exciting, but breaking down the details that we have, we've already seen 4 pieces of equipment that are going to be used for liminal play that take up 4 slots here. The 3 new heroes, their young versions, will also be a token, but something that is a departure from past sets is that the adult versions will not appear as tokens, because we've seen 1 new hero with a Majestic Pip on their regular adult version. Then 9 Marvels. I don't know. We're getting Marvels. They're going to be mech. I'm willing to bet on the Evo equipment and maybe like a couple legendaries having an extended art. That's my wild guess. There seems to be a new version of Dash, which we have artwork for, but no rules text yet. We're going to have a brand new hero that has been mentioned in the lore previously, called Teklovasen. That's Dash's dad, for those that don't know. And so far, an unknown hero. We can speculate about the inclusion of Datadol, as that is a hero that is really in desperate need of some sort of revitalization, the Azalea treatment, something. But I don't know. We'll see. A whole set that does not give anything to Datadol. We'll have to keep our eyes peeled for that. Now, I've mentioned the expansion slot. What is that? Well, every 15 packs or so, the same frequency with which cold foils will appear, one of the 2 tokens slots in each pack will contain an expansion slot card. As per the official announcement, these cards are high rarity, so I'm thinking Majestics and up, and they can be either expanding the story within the wider world of Wraith. Here I'm thinking of cards like the Oddball class cards from Dusk Till Dawn that didn't really seem to fit anywhere with the theme, like Murloc Hill, Alluring Inducement. Like those cards progress the story forward, and they were part of Dusk Till Dawn, but they're not really super impactful, important cards for the classes those cards were for. The second point is to expand the tournament card pool for classes and or talents outside the core focus of the product. So in this case, we're talking about a mechanologist set. Obviously, a lot of people would want cards for non-mech classes. So this is a way for them to get cards in there, and similar to the above point about the lore cards, but with more of a focus on giving classes tools specifically for constructed play. For this, if we're going by Dusk Till Dawn examples, I'm thinking stuff like Starstruck, Anthem of Spring, Call Down the Lightning, that sort of thing. And the final point, but certainly one of the more interesting ones, is used as a way to reprint key cards, such as the Fiendal's Spring Tunic card we've mentioned already. This is interesting. I am hopeful that we are going to get needed reprints, CNC, Art of War, E-Strike, that sort of thing. And obviously Tunic is on top of that must reprint list. While this is a mechanologist only set, the developers felt that they needed to inject some cards into the other classes too. That's the expansion slots really job. It allows for cards to be printed or reprinted without impacting limited play itself. The developers have stated that they wish to lessen the frequency of expansion sets like Dynasty or Dusk Till Dawn, and this seems like a great way to give more tools to players, even if the set isn't entirely focused on heroes they are interested in. So, for example, this set only has mechs. The next one might have guardians and wizards, something like that. But, you're going to have your warriors that are like, where's my support? And, the expansion slot could serve as an avenue for that. My understanding of the first 2 points here is that they are quite similar in that they needed to print cards not intended for limited play and likely not related to the events of Metrics or wherever the current set takes place at. These cards may be intended as tools to help other classes in some area, while also helping progress the story forward by showcasing other important aspects of the lore. Metrics is an interesting place for sure, and I do want to see what they do with it and how they explore the story there. Events unfolding throughout Dusk Till Dawn and the Fallout thereafter have really a much greater impact on the world of the game, and presumably that is something that they want to give some attention to. We don't know how many cards are in the list of possibilities of appearing as an expansion slot card, but we can make the following guesses by comparing the contents of previous 3-hero draftable sets. So here we have Tales of Aria and Outsiders, the only other 2 sets that have 3 heroes, and they are draftable. And we can see that the numbers line up pretty much the same for Fables and rares and commons, tokens, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But we can focus on the legendaries and majestics. It gives us really a clear indication that there are a lot more majestics in this set than in previous ones, and it's far closer to the number of majestics in supplemental sets, like Dynasty, for example, had 51 majestics. This leads me to believe that we can expect about 20 or so of the majestics in this set to appear as expansion slot cards. Their rares and commons appear to be about what you'd expect, and the 7th legendary has already been confirmed to be Tunic. I can thus make a pretty educated guess that the total number of cards that would appear in the expansion slot is likely going to be 20, nice and even number, 19 majestics, 1 legendary. And if we assume that you can open 1 to 2 expansion slot packs per box, since it's 1 in 15, some quick maths tells us that you would need to open roughly
36 boxes
to open playsets of each expansion slot majestic, assuming you don't get more than 3 of some. That's quite a lot compared to the about 11 boxes that you would need to open to get places of the 27 remaining regular majestics from this set. None of this is taking into account foil versions of those cards, the fact that some cards might be equipment, so you don't need full playsets, or legendary cards. Anyway, this leads me to be a bit concerned about the prices of these expansion slot cards, especially since they seem to be important enough to print now rather than in a later set, which would feature that class. But time will tell. I am optimistically skeptical about the expansion slot. They can increase its frequency in the future if needed, so it's certainly a pretty interesting experiment to have a look at how it plays out. Now, we have a new way of playing the game. Crack, Shuffle, Play. It's a brand new casual play format specifically designed to be the easiest way for new players to jump into the game. You just crack open 3 packs of bright lights, remove the tokens and equipment, and presumably any heroes that might appear in it, shuffle the rest of the cards, choose a hero and a weapon, and get to playing. It's certainly a great way to get people interested into the game. It's super fast. You don't need to know anything about deck building. So if sealed formats scare you a little bit, and if like a pre-con blitz deck seems too samey and boring, this is a great way to do it with basically the same cost as a blitz pre-con. Now onto the juicy stuff, known spoilers. This initial announcement came a few spoiler cards as well as some new mechanics. First of all, let's dive into the biggest one, the Evo equipment. Mechanologists are known for their tinkering and engineering prowess, and this can now be reflected in their gameplay as you get to build fascinating and powerful new pieces of gear for your hero in the middle of your games. So here's what we know so far. A new subtype has been introduced to some equipment, making them a base piece. You can see from this limited cycle of proto equipment. These can be equipped into their respective slots as normal during the beginning of a game. Your deck can now include Evo equipment cards, such as the spoiled Evo Still Soul Memory, which functions like a regular card. It can be pitched for its pitch value, can block for its defense value, and also be played for its effect. In the case for this card, its play effect costs 4 resources. As an action, and transform a base head equipment you control to this, becoming your new head equipment. As a piece of equipment, it has a defense value of 3 and the temper keyword, meaning it can block 3 times total for 6 total defense before breaking due to temper. There is an additional line of text that makes this more exciting though. If you transform from or to a different piece of Evo equipment, your hero also gets +1 intellect. This means you can chain several different Evo pieces together. With the current rules, whenever an Evo would transform from an existing piece of equipment, any minus defense counters that may have existed on the original piece don't carry over to the new Evo. This means that we can play something like Evo Still Soul Memory, use it to block 3, then for 2, then play a new Evo, resetting the defense on it. This is a huge amount of block from your equipment, but let's not forget that the Evos still need to be played and their costs need to be paid, so it's not, exactly free. There's also a barcode looking section in the spoiled card, which to me looks like there's more text to it, likely referencing keywords not yet spoiled. Regardless, this new mechanic will allow mechanologists to start with presumably weaker pieces of equipment that can be upgraded to the significantly better pieces of gear. If we start taking into account cards like Construct Mechanoid from Dynasty, then the gears really start to turn. The second spoiler card we have is Terminator Tank, a mechanologist attack action card that cares about the number of Evo equipment you have. At base rate, this isn't a very good card. Red pitch, 3 defense, 6 attack for a whopping 6 cost to play. Yikes. But if you have some Evos equipped, this starts getting more and more ridiculous. 1 Evo gives it an on-hit of your opponent discarding a card, pretty good. The second Evo makes this card cost 3 less resources to play. I would say this is the cutoff point of where this is playable. Third gives it overpower, kind of whatever, and the fourth gives it +3 attack. That is pretty nuts if you have it fully powered up. Notable how it isn't affected by the existing card pool of cards that gives some sort of benefit to cards with boost, as it doesn't have that. Things like high speed impact, because you need to boost the next card to give it dominate, stuff like combustible courier. So again, that would need a boosting card to give it the +3, assuming it hit. So it would be interesting to see where such a card would fit. We also have a cycle of presumably rare pieces of equipment, or maybe common, the Teklo cycle, which are base equipment with defense of 1 and Blade Break. I'm guessing we're going to see some higher rarity base equipment, as we'll need a good reason to give up on Teklo Foundry Hard, and to a lesser extent Achilles accelerators for constructed decks. Now, big spoiler time. The second adult or regular mechanologist hero we've ever gotten. I know it's been forever. Everyone's been waiting to see what they do with mechs, and we're getting one. We know that Dash is getting a new hero as well as a third unknown hero, but this is what we have to kickstart our mech appetite. Teklovasan Esteemed Magnate is a mechanologist hero with 20 for the young version and 40 for the regular version health, and 4 intellect. But I swear, guys, Brilliant is Teklovasan. The Lure should have like 1,000,000 intellect, but you know, that might have been a bit broken. Anyway, his hero ability reads, you may play Evos from your banished zone, and once per turn, as an instant, you can pay 3 resources and play your next Evo this turn as though it were an instant. When you do, you get to draw a card. Boy, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, let's look at the bigger picture of the 3 heroes of the set. Since there is supposed to be interplay with the 3 main pillars of the limited format, Evos, Boost, and Items, and Teklovasan looks to revolve around Evos and Boost, it's quite safe to assume, I think, that the other 2 heroes will be focused on Boost and Items, or Items and Evos. Having discussed the possibilities for the 3 heroes, let's take a deeper look into the known new hero. Obviously, without knowing what the other Evo cards will get, and what payoffs we'll be getting, it's quite hard to judge right now. We can speculate that all equipment slots will be getting something similar to Evo Steel Soul Memory, and since headpieces are the ones that care about cards, the chest piece should care about resources, arm should care about attack values, and the legs should care about action points, and go again, that sort of thing. The effect triggers in a similar manner to how Soul Memory triggers on the upgrade to or from another Evo piece. We can estimate that this may be the trigger point for other Evos in this rarity perhaps. Obviously, Teklovasan wants to include Evos in his deck, as well as boost cards with which to boost the Evos away, effectively increasing his hand size. You'll want to be playing multiple different Evos perhaps for the same slot, and change between them to constantly be getting the benefit. These are all well and good, but your offensive capabilities need to be up to snuff if you're going to compete with other heroes. Equip and change your equipment from Banished Zone at instant speed may be cool and all, but it doesn't give you much offensive capabilities. On top of everything, this looks to be a deck that really needs a heavy blue pitch base, further limiting its offensive output. The issue of boosting away too many cards is ever present, as you'll still want to boost, thus fatiguing yourself faster, while with Teklovasan you can recoup some of the boosted cards since you can play the Evos from Banish. Perhaps we'll be looking at a more defensive mech, which follows a Guardian-like playstyle or deck construction. Remember, this hero's ability costs 3 to activate on top of whatever the Evo you're trying to play costs. As far as the other 2 heroes, I've already speculated about their place in the limited environment, but from a constructed perspective, I do think they will fulfill very different roles. Let's break this down. The original Dash sits in a mid-range space at the moment, and though this can obviously change with the release of the set, her ability simply allows her to remain flexible depending on the opponent or current game state. As such, her ability on its own isn't inherently powerful and doesn't really allow her to create all that powerful turns. I'm talking about the ability in and of itself here, okay? Her powerful turns really hinge on her actual cards and not her ability. It's also, and let's be honest here, a rather boring ability. I believe all of the new mechanologists we'll be getting in this set will have very different playstyles and roles within the meta. If the original Dash will continue to be this flexible but ultimately very vanilla hero that can adapt to most situations but doesn't really excel in any one thing, I believe 3 new heroes will have a much more defined role. Teklovasan obviously will want to be playing some Evos in his deck, otherwise his abilities don't do anything. This will likely mean he needs a lot of blues to support playing these higher costs. This makes him a deck that wants to set up for quite a while, banishing and casting Evos, and after his setup is done, he can unleash all of the payoffs for having multiple Evos. You've built your mech suit, and now it's time to unleash above rate damage to your opponent. That seems to be what the vibes I'm getting from Teklovasan. The new Dash is named Dash.io. In the world of engineering lingo, this means input-output. If we take into account her existing specializations and what this could mean thematically, perhaps is the intake of resources for the output of damage or the output of items. Hence my speculation of her caring about boosting and items. She needs to be functionally different from the original Dash. I suspect she'll be a lot more adept at dealing lots of damage very fast and being a bit more fragile. Mech cards have historically all blocked for 3. Perhaps this version of Dash will be playing with some cards with less defensive capabilities and higher offensive stats for perhaps a greater cost to your deck size. For example, boosting multiple cards off of one attack for some greater benefit for the attack itself. I believe the Cranky World will be coming into play for her as well, as it would allow her to put some items into play while also keeping up her offensive plan. The final hero is completely unknown. I'm willing to speculate on it being some new version of Data because of the above estimations. Teklo-Vossen is a slow control style deck. Original Dash is a flexible mid-range deck. New Dash is a very aggressive deck. This leaves us with one more archetype. That's Combo. If the third hero wants to work with evos and items, that makes her by definition not very offensive and not very defensive either, since evos cost resources and action points of play, while items don't even block. This may mean that there is some combo of items and or evos to assemble before going off, even including cards like Construct Mechanoid and Ioctane for a huge pop-off turn, as we've seen some people try already. There's weapons to speculate for, like new pistols or non-offensive one-handed tool-like weapons for heroes like Teklo-Vossen to be using. There's two types of cards that mechanologists don't even have access to. That's reactions and instants, so I'd love to see some of that. Oh, what I would do for a mechanologist defense reaction, seriously. There's no real tricks you can pull off unexpectedly as mechanologists, except perhaps when you play well-timed Pulse-Wave Harpoon. You don't really have any must-block on hits except Combustible Courier. So there's so many directions that can be explored for the class, especially the class-only theme of pulling cards or equipment from the opponent. Things like T-Bone, Magnetic Shockwave, and Pulse-Wave Harpoon are great tools, but I think they need more support to really have any impact, or consistent impact, I should say. If your entire deck is just vanilla mediocre damage, and none of it is particularly disruptive, the opponent can just swing back with no repercussions. With the class pool being expanded by so many cards, I'm sure these concerns will be addressed, so for now, all we can do, well, it's wait. And all of the above have been some very speculative guesses on my end, but I don't think I've made any outlandish claims. An entire set dedicated to a single class, giving it all the tools it has been begging for so many years, is likely going to open up the 4 main playstyles, since I don't think we'll be revisiting Mechanologist for a while after this set. So with all that being said, I'm sure I'll be making more and more videos about this set as more information gets dropped. We do want to bring you more gameplay videos, and there's just so much content to expand upon the channel. I hope this was enjoyable for everybody, and if you're still watching, consider giving us a subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.